I'm Alyssa Vinson, the residential horticulture agent with the UF5 Extension in Manatee County.
Hello, I'm David Outerbridge. I'm the Sustainable Food Systems Agent for UF-IFAS Extension Lee County.
So you may be asking yourself, what is a mushroom? At its very basic, a mushroom is the reproductive structure of a fungal organism. Fungus can grow on all kinds of substances, in the soil, in decaying wood, even in your garden. The mushroom is the source of spores, which allow that fungus to reproduce. Just like other kingdoms of life, mushrooms or fungi can be categorized based on their characteristics and where we find them in nature. When we look at mushrooms, most of us often think of a very typical mushroom that has cap, gills, stalk, and mycelium. The mycelium are the largest part of the mushroom, which consume the decaying matter or live on some kind of living thing and get nutrition from it. The stalk is what holds the spore-producing structure upright from the substrate. The gills or sporangia hold the spores and release them into the surrounding environment, and the cap is the structure that covers all of this. Mushrooms come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. If you can imagine a color or a shape or even a glow-in-the-dark mushroom, it probably exists on the planet. When we look at mushrooms across the world, we find a huge diversity in their shapes and structures and functions. Given the vastness of mushroom diversity, we have about 4,000 species here in the state of Florida. Worldwide, when we look at the distribution and the shapes and structures, we only actually can describe about 25% of all of those that are anticipated to exist. So we only have 4,000 species here in Florida documented, but we may have many more that we've never seen before.
I know a lot of gardeners would think, why would I want to introduce a fungus to my garden? Now, traditionally, we think of fungus as some sort of disease or pathogen that can infect many of the plants in our garden. But introducing fungi into our gardens can actually benefit our gardens. There are multiple benefits that these fungus provide. If you introduce them into the soil, they form mycelial relationships with the plants that are in your garden that help in the exchange of water, nutrients, and sugars between the mycelial networks and the plants in your garden. There are many other added benefits. You can make more use of your garden, the surface area of your garden, by having mushrooms in your garden, and they also can digest a lot of the horticultural wastes that are in your garden. Not only that, there are some mycelium that are specially designed to digest and attack nematodes in your garden, so they can help prevent pests that are in the soil. So really, having fungus in your garden and mycelium in your soil, as well as around your mulch, other areas of your garden, can not only provide you with food, they can reduce the amount of pests in your garden and increases the biodiversity in your garden, as well as improve the exchange of nutrients and digestion and nutrients that are in your soil.
There are many different ways to incorporate mushrooms into your garden. You can simply add mushroom spawn that you can find through online sources or through a local mushroom grower, where the mushroom mycelium has grown on a substrate such as rye berries. You would take the spawn and you would add it to your mulch or to your straw mulch around your vegetable garden underneath shady, large-leaved plants. You can inoculate a log with individual plugs that you can also purchase either online or from a local grower. Or you can set up your own little grow bins with different kinds of mushroom mycelium. Here we have a local Florida chlorotis mushroom or oyster mushroom that has been grown on straw in a greenhouse.
So working with that local mushroom producer is really going to help you, because you can get the grain spawn, you can get the plugs, but you can also get some of the spent blocks and start a mushroom compost as well that introduces the mycelium and helps the mushroom producer with the disposal of those blocks. Those blocks will usually be wood chips and soy hulls mixed, so you're not really introducing anything into your environment that is of any risk. Here we are looking at a mushroom log. So if you have any oak or hardwoods that are in your garden, most mushroom plugs will grow very well on oak. That's probably the best wood, and you want this oak to be cut 2 weeks ago. That's kind of the ideal. From 2 weeks to about, so if it was cut 2 weeks ago to about 6 weeks is the best time to inoculate it, because after that, really you're giving every other fungus a head start and you're competing with every other fungus. The idea of inoculating with these plugs is to get inside this epidermis, the outside of the log, and inoculate it with a mycelium plug. As you can see right here in the very end of it, you've got tiny little hairs of the mycelium that are coming out, and you're putting that into this log. So you would drill it. So look about the depth of the plug, and then what you do is you hammer it in very carefully. Following this, you'll want to take some beeswax, or you can get sealing wax, and you would take this, melt this down in a small crock pot or on the stove. Be very careful not to over melt it because it can damage your pots. And then you would take a paintbrush and paint that on the end there. And what that does is it seals it in so no other mycelium or anything can get at that plug, and it gives that mycelium a head start inside the heart of the wood. And after you've inoculated this and sealed this with the wax, for every inch of diameter of log you have, you will get a year of production. And depending on what type of mushroom you're inoculating with, it'll have different fruiting times. These are shiitakes. These take about a year, and you can inspire kind of fruiting of these by submerging this in water. What you want to do after you've inoculated it and sealed it up is get this log good and wet for the first good bit, and then make sure it's watered in a damp, dark, moist area. You can use it to line beds, you can use it around fruit trees or other trees in your garden, or you can just use it to line pathways. And what will happen is you'll see the initial pinheads of the mushroom coming out, and then a day or two later you'll see a kind of mature mushroom. And what you want to do is harvest that at the base, and make sure you're very careful with that log, and make sure you're identifying the right mushroom, because sometimes other types of mushrooms can colonize these logs. You want to be careful that it's the mushroom that you're looking for.
Identifying mushrooms accurately is very important. If you need help identifying mushrooms, you can find a lot of resources online or in your good old bookstore or your local library. You can also feel free to contact your local UF-IFAS Extension office and talk to your Master Gardener Plant Clinic desk or your local horticulture agent. As with harvesting anything from your garden, you want to make sure that your soil is safe and your water is safe. So be sure to have your soil tested and have your water tested. If you're using reclaimed water or rainwater, make sure that you're only watering at the base of your plants, and if you're using it to keep your mushroom logs wet, make sure that once the mushroom starts to fruit, you're no longer watering with that reclaimed water or that rain barrel water. Using mushrooms in your garden can be as simple as adding them to your compost. This will help speed up the composting process and add beneficial microbes to the soil. You can take mushroom spawn, just like this, break it up, and toss it into your compost pile. Make sure that you water your compost, keeping it nice and wet so that it has the ability to break down and that mycelium stays nice and moist so that it can grow effectively.
So here's another great area. If you don't have much space and you're looking for things to do in shady areas of your garden where you already have established plants, a great way to do that is to add mycelium to the mulch. So what you would do is you would take this up, take some of the spawn and put it underneath, then make sure you water it well. This species, the Pleurotus, or the Pleurotus floridana, has specially developed hyphae with lassos that trap nematodes. So what this does is reduce the pest pressure on the plants and amount of nematodes in the soil. It's also devouring the nutrients and helping make those nutrients more available to the plants above and forming mycorrhizal relationships in the soil. The final benefit of this is when the mycelium fruits and you get some fresh oyster mushrooms. So what we're doing here is building a mushroom snag, or a mushroom composter that can go in the garden. We've got a structure of wood that is inoculated with the plug mushrooms, and then we're putting straw into it and inoculating that with the spawn. And this can be built up as high as will be structurally sound, and this will produce mushrooms in shady areas of your garden, as well as utilize a lot of the cuttings and clippings that you have from your garden.
Mushrooms are a great way not only to diversify the species in your garden, but also to diversify your diet. Mushrooms are a complete source of proteins. They have essential amino acids, all kinds of different micronutrients, and pro and prebiotics that are great for our bodies. In the environments that we surround ourselves with, our built landscapes, our landscaped gardens, our garden beds, we take some measure of control. But introducing fungi and other types of native and beneficial additions to our environment, we can increase the biodiversity in our soil and in our plants while increasing the overall health of our connected ecosystems within the broad mosaic of our landscapes.
So if you're interested in gardening with mushrooms, reach out to your local extension office and get in touch with an agent who can help guide you towards local mushroom producers where you can get spawn and plugs. Make sure you're getting local because they are climatized to our environment, and a lot of local producers are familiar with the mushrooms that do well in our environment. And really just take your time. It's supposed to be an addition to the garden. It's going to benefit your garden, and you're going to learn a lot more about growing as a result.
And if you have any questions along the way, please reach out to your local horticulture agents. We're here to help you and help your garden grow.